This episode of Homemade was previously recorded in front of a live stream audience who asked questions and cook along during the show. If you love cooking and want to join us in the kitchen, visit homemadecooking.com to register for free live classes. Now, let's get cooking. What is up, everybody? How are you? Big hugs. I'm seeing so many great people. Welcome to Homemade. I am Joel Gamoran. I am our head chef. I'm also the founder. And we're going to make an awesome lasagna today. I know that when people think lasagna, they think a lot of work needs to go into making a great lasagna. It's not true. You can make a really foolproof lasagna in a cinch. Really, really easy to do. Also, I think when people think lasagna, they think it's really unhealthy. Also not true. We're going to do a great version. This is a lasagna verde. So there's lots of greens, broccoli, kale, beautiful sage, just gorgeous greenery happening in this lasagna, keeping it light. But we are, of course, going to make it nice and rich, beefy in all the right ways by using ground beef. This is going to be so good. Let's get cracking on this lasagna. Step one, grab the biggest, baddest pan you have and turn it on a high heat. While this is heating up, this is when I add my ground beef. Right, I've got 1 pound, 80-20. So 20% fat, 80% muscle, ground beef, all right? It's not sizzling, it's just kind of starting, and I'm just gonna use my spoon and start to kind of break it up in the pan. And by bringing up the ground beef to temperature in the pan, what happens is, instead of just searing the outside and getting it super brown really quickly, the fat from the beef starts to slowly render out, starts to slowly give way. I do this with bacon too. And what it does is it kind of creates this really slow rendering that allows the beef to fry in its own fat. So you don't have to add oil to this. If I was adding it to a hot pan, I'd have to add oil because there's not enough time for the beef to release its fat. So by starting in kind of a cool pan, you actually save a lot of fat. While the beef is starting to kind of soften and brown, I'm gonna grab an onion. I peeled this onion. I'm just gonna cut off the little nub here. Cut it in half. And I'm just gonna cut these into strips. And those strips in half. And then that into a little dice. You just want it bite size. Don't worry about it being perfect. The onion's gonna just give some awesome sweetness. Look at this. You guys can see the fat bubbling around. That's because we gave it time to come out. Isn't that cool? So, all that beef in, and I'm gonna grab these onions, and in they go. All right, so onions in. I'm gonna give a big pinch of salt now. That's gonna draw out, obviously, a lot of moisture from those onions. Also, it's gonna help the beef kind of mellow out. I'm gonna do the same thing with some pepper. All right, so you can see it's all happening in the pan. I can smell the black pepper. You smell that, Cat? Woo! All right, a couple more ingredients. Guys, we're making lasagna. Garlic is happening. Has to. I've got 5 cloves. This is a Chinese technique, but I like to just take the clove on the side of the board, knife or the top. You don't even really have to chop it. Just smash it really hard. And you can see it just kind of busts. All right? You can give it a little chop through, but it doesn't need much once you smash it that good. I mean, once or twice through, and you're good to go. Grab that. In we go. Of course, we're adding the garlic after the onions so the garlic doesn't burn. Guys, look at the beef starting to brown. The onions starting to soften. It's getting so fragrant in here. It smells incredible.
We did get a little question about if you don't like kale, like if you can sub it with spinach. I think that'd be great.
Absolutely. I think green beans would be great. Peas would be awesome. It doesn't have to be leafy greens, but yeah, spinach would be great. I like a little heat, when I mean heat, I mean spice. So we have some chili flakes here. Just like the same stuff you'd get at like a pizza parlor. Just dried chili flakes, big pinch of that. So we've got some kale here. And this is called dinosaur kale. So I just kind of gather all this up into a big ball and start hacking at it until you got nice little ribbons. And then I'm going to cut that even smaller. And again, this beef mixture with kale is going to really be our filling. All right? So I'm going to grab all this right on top of that beef. And then, oh my gosh, this is just, guys, sage. I've got a handful of sage. Don't even measure it. I've been growing this out in the backyard. It's been growing like a weed. And my little son keeps petting it like it's like a doll. And he's like, it's soft, Daddy. I mean, it is. I mean, sage is totally like velvety, but it's like so funny. He's like literally petting it. So I'm just going to cut up the sage into really small bits. In we go. It's about a tablespoon. And then just mix that through. Look at this mixture. Honestly, forget the lasagna. I'd eat it just like this over a bowl of rice. Or you could make this into like a little stir fry with some fish sauce, maybe a little brown sugar, hit a lime. All right, so at this point, the kale is kind of wilted down. The beef is getting nice and crispy. And this filling is really starting to happen. The onions have gotten super soft and sweet. One went overboard. Let's just try the whole mixture. You know, lasagna is one of those things, I mean, it's not just layered figuratively, it's absolutely layered with flavor. So you kind of want to taste each layer. So here's the beef. Needs salt. Really good on the pepper and the chili. And by really good, maybe went a little hard, but it will balance out with the cheese. More salt. And then we have just a glug of white wine. We like white wine just because it keeps it light and crisp and fresh with the greens. So I'm just going to deglaze. And as I add that in, just kind of scrape. And then I'm going to give it one more taste. And I think we'll be in good shape. Onions look caramelized. Beef looks brown. Okay. I always take the biggest bites and it's so hot. Woo! Perfect. I'm really happy with that. Really simple, you guys. We're going to talk about how we layer this into the lasagna itself, but look how beautiful that already looks. Honestly, I'm very, very happy with that. So let that hang out. Nothing crazy. This is a great time to preheat your oven. So we're going to go at 350 degrees and just kind of get that going. We're now going to make this really yummy broccoli bechamel. We're going to start in a big pot here with a little bit of butter. And we're going to let that melt down, and we're going to make a roux. I know so many people know what a roux is, but I'm just going to call it out again. It's 50-50 fat to flour or thickener. And we make this typically to thicken sauces. It doesn't have to be creamy sauces like today. This is just one of those things that you learn at cooking school that's kind of fundamental. It's a French sauce. And you always start, I mean, you can do it with olive oil, but you start with a little bit of butter. Let that melt down, get nice and foamy. And by a little bit, I mean, that's a lot of butter, but let's be real. This is going to be a lot of lasagna. And then I go in with my flour and just kind of sprinkle that over. And you kind of just start moving that around. Now, some people kind of just like let it cook for a minute and call it a day. But you really got to let the butter and the flour cook for a good amount of time. Otherwise, it really tastes like wallpaper when you add it to the sauce. So we kind of just keep toasting it. And, you know, you can make this a light roux, which is like what we're making. This is called a blonde roux. Or you can make it really dark and sit here for 10, 15 minutes until it gets almost black, which is obviously called a dark roux. And we use that a lot in gumbos. A lot of Southern cooking, we'll use that to really thicken stews, sauces, turtle soup. It does have a really nutty flavor the more it toasts. I'm now going to add some garlic, just to double down on the garlic. If our breath wasn't going to be bad enough already, let's get our breath to another level. So I'm just going to treat it the exact same way. Grab a clove, smash. Clove, smash. Whoop. Ah, that one does not want to be smashed. There we go. I'm now going to grab some milk. I've got whole milk here. I know there's a lot of cheese in this recipe, but if you don't do milk and you want to do like a non-dairy alternative, totally fine. Just make sure it's not sweetened. As long as it's not sweetened, it will work. The key to this part is not to dump all the milk in at once, but to kind of work it in and let the roux kind of catch it. So check this out. I have a whisk now, and I'm going to go with like a splash, maybe half a cup, and start to kind of whisk that up. See how thick it got just immediately? And go with a little bit more. Isn't that crazy? You're just making this really creamy, gorgeous sauce, and it just happens kind of before your eyes. More. It's beautiful. And I'll let that thicken up. All right. So here's how I would do this broccoli. I kind of like to hold the base and give the whole thing a little bit of a haircut, because it kind of just naturally splits. And then when I get to the actual stem itself, I just kind of thinly slice it. And everyone throws away the stem, but it's so sweet. These little bits, they're like little water chestnuts. They're so good. Just nice bite-sized pieces. So I'm going to add a little pepper to this, a little salt, and this ingredient is not optional. I'm calling it right now, nutmeg. Nutmeg in, this is now called a bechamel sauce or a white sauce, is everything. And I like to grate it fresh. We're going to go with about half a clove of nutmeg. As this is coming up to a boil, this is actually a great time to add our broccoli. Just kind of give it a light cook. We're going to bring this to the boil, let it get just a little bit thicker, but then we're going to start adding some cheese. So once you have your sauce as thick as you want it, so see the bubbles? I turn it off now. I want no bubbles, zero. It is off the heat. And I'm going to take half my mozzarella and add it in. I'm going to take half my Parmesan and add it in. And I'm just going to kind of fold that through, and it's going to make it even thicker, even shinier, even more delicious. Look at this. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Now, one of the cool hacks is we really want this creamy bechamel to kind of flow throughout the whole lasagna. So I take about a cup of it right into the beef filling, like this. And then you just kind of fold that through. So here's how we build this puppy. First, I start with a little bit of the cheese sauce on the bottom and just kind of spread that through. Now, this we did on purpose. You'll notice our noodles don't quite fit. They fit in the middle, but they don't fit on the outside. And what I love about these noodles is you can just kind of crack them and just kind of fit them in where you need to. All right. Let's go now with another layer of bechamel. And then we go with the beef. So there are going to be 3 layers of beef, so we kind of want to eye it. So I'm going to go with about a third of the beef. Then, between each layer, a little bit of mozz, a little bit of parm, and we do it again. gosh. Little black pepper on top, just for some heat on the tongue. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Wow. We're going to bake it for 45 minutes, 45 to 50 minutes, covered. So grab a little tin foil. For the last 15 minutes, rip the tin foil off and let the oven brown the top. So I'm going to pop this in. Whew, so good. All right. And then my rules are, when it comes out, you got to let it sit for an hour. I'll say half hour minimum, but you got to let it cool down. Otherwise, it's really hard to slice, and the pasta still doesn't hydrate. So you really got to give it just time to sit. And when it comes out, it looks like this. I mean, leopard print on top. Just the casserole of dreams. So here is how I serve this. That looks about right. You can see this is sit nice, so you get that nice smooth cut. And I wipe in between cuts. So here will be our chef snack. This is our sacrificial one. Still looks beautiful, but I'm putting it in a bowl. I'll be eating that later. And let's grab this one. Since I'm presenting to thousands of my friends, I want to make sure we bring a nice one out. Put that on the plate. You get to see that layer, the ooziness coming out of it. I mean, that's only 3 layers. You can go as high as you want. But look at that. That is a beautiful piece. All right. Unfortunately, I have to try this. Whoa. Whoa, Kat. I'm looking at Kat. Kat busted this out so we can have a swap ready to go for this. Kat, you did a great job. This recipe,
Thank you.
it's so much more than lasagna. It really feels like a meal. I mean, the beef, so pronounced. It's really the flavor that comes through the most. But then to have like this greeny, this leafy green situation happening next to it, it feels like a complete situation on your tongue. Again, I mean, noodles are great, bechamel is great, the beef fat, the beef, that is what sets us off, and that is our amazing mission, is we really want to get people behind our amazing, amazing cattlemen, people raising beef. So please support beef. We love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bust out this lasagna verde. It's worth every bite. Take care, everybody. Hey there, I'm Joel Gamoran. I'm the head chef and founder of Homemade, and we launched Homemade with the idea that we want to bring cooking and the kitchen to the world. So if you love cooking and want to join us in one of our free live stream cooking classes, head to our website, homemadecooking.com. That's homemadecooking.com to register today.